Tell me how it can help.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got bullet points because I know we have limited time, but I've got like a history of abandonment issues, and in my early 20s, I got adopted by like a family, I guess. It's a ministry group that basically did life together for 10 years,
Oh, that's
Christmases and
so.
everything like that.
And anything in
It was the
between?
best. Yeah, I
Anything?
mean, the two leaders of the group basically raised me. I didn't have really a childhood. So the
It's
two
beautiful.
leaders were best friends, and they were my spiritual fathers. You know, they raised me. They're the only reason I started being somewhat functional. Um, so
Hey,
then
let's just
uh,
give a shout out to them wherever they are, because that's what
yeah,
that's what everybody needs. And if you don't need it, then you ought to be doing it for somebody. So way to
oh
go,
yeah, and I
spiritual
started
family.
doing it for I started the youth group and started teaching them a lot of stuff that you teach, and I learned from my counselor and stuff. But
Cool.
so last November, the leader that I was most closest to, the spiritual father I was closest to, took a job at a large church being the creative director, and basically said, "Oh, nothing's going to change. Everything's going to be fine." And everything changed, and nothing was fine. But he didn't ever admit that. He just, to this day, is basically kind of still pretending everything's fine. But we don't
Mm.
meet anymore. We used to meet on Mondays, and he basically kind of stopped talking to everyone. I mean, I guess because he's overwhelmed.
Mm.
Um,
And
so
how big is
I
this
want,
group? When you
yeah,
say everyone in the spiritual family that he was kind of the leader of, how big is this group?
probably about 10 people, and
Okay.
some people went to the church with him, you know.
Hmm.
It's just, for me, he was like the person that I trusted the most when I grew up not trusting anyone. And I still
Yeah.
have the second one, the other spiritual dad, but I'm
Okay.
always nervous he's going to leave, but um so I guess my question is, because working on things with my counselor, who's an amazing, amazing counselor. His name is Roger Shepard, and he's a fantastic Christian counselor. But
Shout
my
out to
question is,
Roger.
how do I
Where
work?
is Roger? Where is
Yeah,
Roger?
he's in
If you want
Orlando.
to say. Okay. So now everybody in
What?
Orlando knows. Now everybody in Orlando knows you need a good counselor. Check out Roger, right?
Yeah, Roger Shepard, Florida Counseling Center. He's amazing. But my question, I guess, is, how do I work out abandonment issues with my counselor when I have a root of abandonment, and also recently experienced the deepest abandonment of my life, and other people are actually currently leaving my life too, and it's triggering the abandonment issues to the point where I can't really function. Like,
Mm.
it's very difficult to function. Like, can't get out of bed. I'm on depression medicine. I'm on anxiety medicine. But when it's triggered, like, my roommates just moved, and I was very attached to their 4-year-old. And I'm
Yeah.
constantly scared that my dad, Jim, my spiritual adopted dad, Jim, is going to leave my life. And um, so I have, like, I couldn't get out of bed till noon today. And yesterday I was all zonked out, and I don't know what to do. I want to
Are you
work on it.
working?
My counselor's
Are
really
you
good.
working?
Yeah, I work from home. My schedule is flexible, um,
Are you
but
getting your
it's
work
hard.
done?
I am, but sometimes I get a little behind, and it
Yeah, we
makes me
all
work
do.
late into the night. Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's just
And
hard.
oh,
It's hard
you
to
get
do
behind because
anything,
you're not
really.
getting up. Is that right? You get behind because you're
Yeah,
not
and it's
getting.
hard to
Okay.
focus
Yeah.
unless
Okay.
I'm on some sort
So
of
what?
substance.
Tell me what are you doing about this? What's going on in your counseling? What are you doing about it? What's your plan of attack?
Well, I see my counselor once to twice a month, because that's what
Any
I can
way to
afford.
increase that?
Uh, if I get a roommate again, but right now I'm
That's
paying for
one way.
everything myself. Well,
Okay,
I
that's
was
one.
supposed to. Yeah, my roommate that was supposed to move in dipped. She just left, so that was another trigger. So,
Okay, that's
but I
one.
don't. It's hard for me to find
That's one way.
roommates
But is there another way? A roommate's one way. But hey, sorry about that.
to
But
increase.
Finley, if you look in the background there, I don't know if you can see the screen, but my dog Finley
Oh,
just
dang.
decided that there's something going on outside that she has to inspect. So I apologize for that. Anyway,
Oh,
so
animals are my favorite
Finley.
thing.
Well, here's one right
Yeah.
here. I got to get my family down here to. to come get her.
Maybe so.
Anyway, so is there another way to, the first thing that I'd like to see potentially is if he can do it, and he thinks it's a good idea because he's the one you ought to ask. But a lot of times, you know, an increase in the frequency and decrease in the lag between therapy sessions is really, really important. So could that be done?
Only if I have an increase in income or if somebody moves in to help, you know, cut things in half, because right now I'm paying for everything by myself.
Okay, so how much would, let's talk about that. How much would it take to get you to go every week?
Oh, it's 75 a week. So
okay, so you need to find 150. You need to find $150 a month somewhere.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so that's one thing. But what questions do I ask?
Hold on a second. I just want to say this so other people can kind of, you know, maybe start to think this way. If what's between me and what I want most is $150 a month, okay, then what are the possibilities of me finding $150 a month?
Yeah.
My daughters make that babysitting when they were in high school. Go do a handful of nights of babysitting, or my point is there's 80,000 ways. If what's really one of the most important things now, and then I'm going to go somewhere else. If you've got a group of 10 people that knows that you're suffering this much, and there's 10 people in there, would they, each one of them, put $15 a month into the circle to help you get the counseling that you want, or one of them put 150 in? I don't know.
They might.
But see, that's not a big,
especially
That's
I
what
do video production, so maybe I could help them out with something.
Maybe you could, but my point is this: that especially in the body of believers, but even non-believing in Jesus people with great care for one another will help each other out too. I mean, this is a human thing; it's not just a Christian thing. But we are called to do it. So if you go to the Book of Acts, for example, what do? Well, they just, you know, this is what they do. They help each other out. So if it's that bad and you need 2 sessions, I would go to that circle and say, guys, this is time limited. I'm not going to be dependent on you forever. But would anybody give $15 a month? You know,
and I believe they would, especially since we pattern ourselves off of the Book of Acts. So
there you go. All right. So I'm just trying to get that thinking into your head. So I'd like for you to talk to your counselor. Sure. Is there some way I can see more? So what is your, and we got to go fast here, but what's your next plan of attack? Are you meeting, is the group together still, even though it's lost a couple of people?
Only me and my, the other spiritual dad, Jim. We meet on Mondays, but it's with a different group of people. Because everybody else is
that's in place every Monday. That's in place every Monday.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay. What about, is there a support group through your church? Is there a support group? Does Celebrate Recovery exist? I know it does in Orlando. Have you tried one of those?
Well, the group that I'm meeting in actually, weirdly enough, turned into a support group because it's all the people dealing with kind of the same stuff.
All right. Okay. So here's, and I'm gonna give you the just for time's sake, I'd love to talk to you, longer, but I can't. So here's what I would say to you. I would say to you that you've already got something to build from. Okay, you got a counselor, you got a good group, you got some people that still care. All right. Now, one of the things I want you to do is I want you to get your language and the way that you're framing this and automatically looking at it. I want you to get it to match reality. And here's what I mean by that. When you were communicating about this, there were a lot of all or nothing statements about, when everybody leaves and totally gone and, all of that, that's the abandonment, because that was true for you. See, that's true.
Yeah.
But it's an old truth where you had no one. Everybody left. There wasn't anybody to depend on. They walked out. Okay. Now you have lost some specific people and not some others. Now, I'm not trying to make all this rosy. I'm trying to make it accurate, because part of getting out of the past total abandonment framing is getting into what you're specifically grieving. I don't want you to be abandoned. I want you to be grieving. So let's grieve this leader who made a life choice and lose him in the context of everybody else that loves me. Instead of just have this trigger, I don't have anybody in the universe, because that'll make you analytically depressed. Right?
Yeah, that's a large word.
Yeah. Sorry. Deep attachments. Okay, so
okay. Yeah.
So, and then I want you to go into your therapy and then process what this is triggering, or ask your therapist if this is a good thing to do. This is reminding me of, and then you're going to process all that trauma. And then talk. And once you do that, then you're separating it again, putting, being able to heal something instead of re-experience it all the time. And then also, I want you to talk to your therapist and others, and I'll have to wrap with this. I want you to talk with your therapist and others about the moments where you're feeling abandoned. Who can you call at that moment from that place? Because that's the abandoned child who needs somebody to come into their life. And what does a kid do? A kid starts to feel alone, and they, or they run in and find mom or dad or somebody, and they reconnect with them, and they get filled up. See, every child suffers abandonment every day, because they haven't internalized what's called emotional object constancy, where they can be alone and mommy is inside of them now. That's how they play in the backyard without feeling abandoned. But until they get there, they feel abandoned. And the way they do that is overcoming abandonment moments by crying or running and asking, and mom or dad or somebody comes and picks them up. Every human's been abandoned since birth, because we didn't have any love inside. Gradually, the more we reach out from our need states and internalize that care, they live with us, and then we don't feel abandoned anymore. We feel lonely, like, and then we're able to call someone. So I want you to take the abandoned child into a moment of being picked up.
How do I do that? Like, what does that physically look like?
Physically, it looks like you call your friend Susie and say, sometimes, you know what, I hit bottom. Can I call you and tell you that I'm hitting bottom? And we just talk for a few minutes.
So I can do that with the dad that I have, like Jim. I can call Jim and be like, hey, this is how I'm feeling.
Ask Jim. Ask your friends, who can I call? Okay. See, that's what sponsors do in recovery. Okay.
And it's okay to do that.
It's not okay. It's commanded. It's commanded
right on.
in the book. Yeah. What did Paul say to the Corinthians? We've opened wide our hearts to you. We've opened wide our hearts to you in our lives. Now, as I speak as to children, he says, open wide your hearts to us as well. Reach out. Paul says, when I was depressed, God who comforts the depressed sent Titus to me. He writes some letters. I hope to see you. I need refreshing. Thank you for refreshing me. It's not just okay. It is the blueprint. So let's do it. Let's do it.
And I can process with my counselor about Scott, because that's what's triggering everything else.
Of course.
Like the fact that he loves.
Of course. Of course. You can process with your friends as well. I read this in one of those books. Look, the other thing I want you to do is I want you to get on a little better structured schedule if you can, where you're getting up at a regular time. And if you have trouble with that, then that's where you call one of your friends and say, hey, call me and wake me up and tell me that, I'm a goofball if I don't get out of bed. And you gotta, because one of the things we know, and get moving, that'll help the depression as well. Okay, got to run. Talk to some other people.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your call. I think that you have helped a lot of people today by
good start to the
day. Sharing your story. Thank you. Really, really thank you for that. So many of us, if you've been through times like that where everything falls apart, you feel like, or whatever, There's what happens a lot of times when you get into a subjective state like that, there's a global part of the brain that tends to feel like everything's gone, everything's bad, et cetera, et cetera. And it is global. And one of the things we have to do is we have to make it specific. Okay, who is still left? What is my next choice? Who can I call? Who can give me $15? Once we start to get specific and make specific action steps, then what happens is it returns us to a sense of what psychologists call agency and ability and competency to solve this. And sometimes what I find about a lot of times in that state anyway, but sometimes just normal people, and I don't want everybody to hear this, you have no idea how many options are available to you because you don't have an idea yet, right? I remember one time I was in a management meeting with some folks in a business, and one of the vice presidents said something like some kind of problem, or they ran out of funding here. I can't remember what it was, but something happened. And she goes, well, I guess there's nothing we can do. And I said, what do you mean there's nothing you can do? Well, what are we going to do? I mean, they're not going to give us any more investment money. The bank's not going to, whatever. I said, what do you mean? There's a lot of things you can do. She said, like what? I said, like you can stand up on the table and paint your hair orange and swing from the lamps. Why don't you try that? Meaning there are unlimited things that you can do. You could find a partner. You could find an investor. You could do a GoFundMe. There's 80,000 things that you could do. And see, we don't think that way. And just, in talking with Nakeisha, there were just a few things readily available to her that in depressed states, we don't think of these things. So we need to get out of that little circle sometimes.